boys and girls, welcome back to the Steak and Brush. I'm Christine, just a little different. Lots of requests in my real life from friends and family about how to do basic, very basic makeup for beginners. So instead of trying to dupe a complicated eye look or anything like that, I'm going to take it all the way down to the basics and do something very cheaply and very easily, very accessible for anyone who wants to do a makeup look. And I'm only going to use these few products here. This is all we're going to put on my face. So let's get into it. Okay. First thing I want to say, I'm going to skip a lot of steps that I normally do. I'm paring this down to what I really only feel is essential. So, you could always add more. And, everybody can maybe take some of these steps out, but this is what I feel is essential. So, what I'm going to start with is my foundation. I'm not going to use primer. I don't think primer is something you have to use. But you want to start with a clean skin, preferably moisturized, and you want to let your skincare set for a few minutes. So like if you're doing this in the morning before work, after you get out of the shower, do your skincare, and then like get dressed, brush your teeth, do your hair, something like that, and then you get into the face. I've chosen all drugstore products here that are very affordable. I think everything here, if you total it up, is under $30. You don't have to use these products, but these are products that I have found work well, and they're cheap and easy to get. You don't have to, go to Sephora to get them. You can get them almost anywhere. So the foundation I chose is the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Foundation. This runs around $5. You can get it a little cheaper. If you get it online, like at their site, it might go up to about $6 or so, but you can find this in your drugstores. You can find this in your grocery stores, Amazon, Ulta, if you want to. There's all kinds of places you can find it. So that's cheap to use. I am using the Dewy version. This is the new version that came out. There is an old version. It's also a nice foundation. It's matte, so no shine. The problem with this is if you're sensitive to fragrance, you don't want to use this because this smells like paint when you first put it on. It dissipates, but it could be bad when you first put it on. So if you have a sensitivity to fragrance, you don't want to use this. But if your skin's a little oilier, you might not want to use this because it's dewier. So you kind of have to figure out, which one works best for you. But we're going to put this on with a beauty blender, a beauty sponge, I guess I should say. Beauty blender is an actual brand. This one is from the dollar store. You can get these from anywhere, like I said, dollar store, everywhere else I just mentioned where you can get the Wet n Wild. You want to wet this down with warm water. Really soak it in well so that it expands in size. They start out, this is a different shape, but it's about the same size that they start out. And then it'll grow to a bigger shape like this, so it's softer. And then wring it out real well. Okay, so you can also use a brush. You can use your fingers if you want to. I just don't like using my hands because it gets underneath my skin and underneath my fingernails, and that bothers me. So we're just going to apply some. This has a little paddle on it. I'm just going to apply some. If you don't know how much you need to use, start out with a little, and you can always add more. We're going to take our beauty sponge and just bounce it over your skin and kind of move it around. So it's going to take the excess from those little spots that you put it on, and it's going to spread it around your face. I'm going to leave like a mask kind of from my eyebrows down to about my cheekbone. There. I'm going to do that to apply concealer. Now, if you don't have dark circles, you don't need to do that. You can go ahead and take it up a little higher. You do not have to use concealer. But I'm going to use it today just so that you can see how to use it if you do need to. Right now, I actually don't really have dark circles because I got a good night's sleep. But I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, but anyway, we're just bouncing it around. Don't forget to kind of bring it down your neck a little bit, especially if your color, if the foundation doesn't quite match your color of your skin, or if you have like, you know, dark spots and stuff on your neck, you want to cover it up a little bit too. This is a really nice foundation because it's what I would call medium coverage. It's not like covering everything on your skin so it looks like a mask, but it's also, you know, going to help cover any redness that you have. It's going to help cover freckles and sunspots. Okay, so we just bounce that around. Don't forget to get in those little corners and things until it's all covered and blended out. And there's your foundation. Now, if you do have oily skin, you may want to get a powder and just put a little bit of powder over your face, over your foundation, your concealer, to kind of keep it in place. But if you have regular to dry skin, you don't necessarily have to do that. That's a personal preference, so I'm skipping that step. Next thing we're going to do is concealer. Like I said, you do not have to do concealer. Don't, you know, just because every makeup guru in the world does concealer all the time. You don't have to do it. Concealer is supposed to conceal, obviously, any blemishes you have, or, you know, for the most part, the only thing I use it for is to cover any dark circles. Now, concealer does not conceal these lines and wrinkles. So keep that in mind. Those lines and wrinkles are going to, you know, the more you put of concealer on, the more it's going to sink into those and sometimes make them look worse. So be very light-handed with your concealer. The one I have chosen here, this is the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Concealer. Again, you can get it at the same place that you get the foundation. This usually runs between $3 to $4, depending on, you know, what kind of sales and stuff they have on. So this has what we call a little doe foot there. I am just going to put it in 3 little spots around my eyes. I'm going to put it in this little corner here because lots of people do get, you'll see it's thinner skin there, so you might see a little blue or purple shining through. I'm going to put right under here because that's where my darkness usually collects the most. And the other place that people will get some darkness is right there. Okay, I'm going to put it in all 3 places there. And then I'm going to use my finger to gently kind of press and move it. Press and rub a little bit there. Just very gently. Just getting those little spots there and moving it around. I don't have tons of product. The more product you put, again, right there, the more chance it's going to end up in those lines. And we just want to put it in those places where there is discoloration. If your discoloration is really, really bad, that's probably when you'd want to move on to color correctors, which is like the Makeup 102 class, and we're just in the Makeup 101. So we're just going to leave it at that right now. Same thing. Gently press and slightly rub. Just tap, 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 tap. And again, depending on your skin and what product you're using, you may want to put powder on over this just to keep it from moving around. But it's not something that you have to do. Just kind of play around with it and see, wear it one day. See how it works. Does it move around a lot? Does it disappear? You may want to put some powder on it the next time. Okay, so our skin is done. Now we're going to move on to blush. I just picked up, this is a brand called e.l.f. They're a very inexpensive brand. You can usually find them in places like drugstores, sometimes grocery stores, but I haven't found much around here in grocery stores. Ulta has them. Target, I believe. Yes, Target has them. Probably Walmart. And again, on Amazon, you can find these. Last year, e.l.f. released their bite-sized line, which are these, they're tiny. But, you really don't, if this was all you use, this would probably last you at least a year. So it's a great deal because it's only $3. The color I have this in is Spiced Apple. They have got, I don't know, probably about 4 or 5 different color stories. So go with what you like. You just want to take a fluffier brush. This happens to be a Wet n Wild brush, but it was a limited edition. You probably can't get this one anymore, but you can get Wet n Wild brushes, big fluffy brushes like this for a couple dollars. You can find them at the dollar store or anywhere up. And brushes, a lot of times you get what you pay for it, but you don't, especially if you're a beginner, don't spend a ton of money on brushes. Just find something that works. And then when you get into it more, if you get into it more, then you can spend more money. So we're just going to go into, this is the blush, and this is like a little highlighter blush topper just to give it some sparkle. So you don't have to do that part. We're just going to go into the blush side first. There's different ways you can apply your blush. You can put it on your the apple of your cheeks, or you can go straight back in a line. Usually putting in the apple of your cheeks helps if you have a thinner or longer face. It helps kind of round your face out a little bit more. If you have a very round face and you want to make it look slimmer, you can go back and it kind of creates a look of slimming it down. I like a lot of blush, so I kind of do both. Even though I do have a round face, I kind of like if, Chrissy Teigen has a very round face, but she focuses it on her cheeks, just to intensify it. So I kind of do a little bit of both. So I'll just show you what I do here. You just want to keep buffing it so you're blending it out. You don't want harsh lines. And then I put a little bit on the apples of my cheeks here. And again, I wear a lot of blush. Most people probably don't want to do this much. So you go in as heavy-handed or as light-handed as you want to. You just get it to where it looks like you like. Again, try to blend it out a bit so you don't have a stark line there. And now this whole routine would take like a normal person just a few minutes to do. It's going to take me longer because I'm explaining as I go, but you could probably have this whole thing done in like 10 minutes. Now I'm going to go in with this. Highlighter typically goes on your cheekbone to accentuate it, to make it stand out a little bit more. I like to add a little bit down here but that's just personal preference. You can play around with it and see what you like best, but I'm not going to do a lot. You can use a fluffier brush. I like to have it just, this one is not quite as fluffy, so I get a little more accuracy. Don't want to do too much, because we don't need, especially if you're new to makeup, you don't need something that's like gleaming. Just gives a little bit of shine, catches the light nicely. Again, and this is a step you don't have to do. Definitely do the blush, because after you put foundation on, you've created kind of a flat look to your face, because there's no shadow, there's no color, it's all one single color. So you want to bring that color back and create shadow, light, and that kind of thing. So now our cheeks are done. Eyebrows can be very important. They really can change the look of your eyes, but it's not something you need to do. It can also be a little complicated to do, depending on what, how you want to shape them. So I'm going to skip that step, which is really hard for me because of the scar, but a normal person does not necessarily have to do that. So we're going to move on to eyeshadow. I know this is probably where people are the most interested in, but also sometimes the most worried about, because it can be a little intimidating. I'm using this little e.l.f. palette. Again, this is from their bite-size range that they came out with last year. It is $3. They probably have about 10 of these in different color stories. This one is the Cream and Sugar. I picked this because it's probably the most basic one. And so I think the easiest to use for beginners. But I love all of these palettes for beginners because, again, they're $3. So if you don't like them, you've only wasted $3. They have everything you need to create a basic eye look. We're actually only going to use 3 of these today. You want to use, if you only have one brush, if you can only choose one brush, I would choose something fluffy, kind of like this. It doesn't have to be super fluffy, but enough that you can blend. A flat brush will let you put product on, but it's harder to blend. And blending is very, very important with makeup. So that's why I chose this one. This one is not a cheap brush, but, I mean, it's not super expensive either, but you can get one shaped like this, again, at the dollar store or any place that you buy makeup for just a couple bucks. We're going to start with what we call a transition shade. A transition shade is something that goes in your eye. Again, it's transitioning from one color to the other, usually put in the middle, but it helps you blend. It's not necessarily put there for the color, so we choose usually a light color. I'm going to choose this color. These don't have specific names, but this one here at the very end, this cream colored one, it's almost identical to my eyelid shade. So it's really not going to add any color to it. But again, why we're putting it here is it's going to help us blend, because powders will blend better with powders than it will on just your damp your dry regular skin. So we're just putting that on. Just in the middle. As you can probably see, it's so much like my natural color. It's not adding anything to it right now. But we're just putting that down kind of as a blending base. Okay. Now you have a brush that has some product on it. What do you do before you go to the next one? Well, I've seen people rub it off on their hand, on their leg, on a towel, a tissue, a paper towel. I happen to have, and you'll see me using this. This is called a color switch. It's just a little jar that has this spongy type thing in it. Oh, I've just made a mess doing that. And it the spongy thing in here, you just swivel it around and this knocks off any of the powder. It's not sanitized kind of clean, but it's clean to the point where you're not going to be mixing colors. Okay, so next step, we're going to go into the darkest shade here. And I know this is where it can get intimidating. So darker shades, start out with just a little, and you can build as you go on. So I've got some on my brush. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this in the crease area first. I'm going to start on the outer side because we want the outer side of our eyes to be darker. It's going to kind of bring everything together and more like a shapely, not quite a cat eye, but it's going to kind of give that illusion a bit. So I'm going to start outside, just put it in. Tap it on. You can windshield it back and forth. You can swirl it around, whatever works best for you. If your eyes are older and the skin is a little looser, you may want to be more gentle. But we're just going to start on that outer and then slowly bring it in. Take your time with this because it's just like everything else in life. It's easier to add to it than if you have too much than to take it away. But by doing this, we are deepening that eye socket. Blend nicely. Just keep blending. Until you like what you've got. Okay? This takes practice. You're not going to get it perfect the first time. That's not how makeup works. If you do, it's a complete accident. And count your lucky stars. But then the second time you do it, it probably won't be perfect. And your eyes are never going to look exactly the same. Just get them as close to the same as you can. And again, just practice. Okay, now we're going to use the same color, same brush, but we're going to do the outer portion of our lower eyelid. And while I do this, I'm going to try to put it in an upward sweeping motion. Again, it creates that false illusion that our eyes go up like this, and especially as we get older, your skin starts to sag a little bit, and it makes you look like you're older as well. Funny how getting older makes you look older. But just, this helps build the illusion that our eyes are not quite as saggy. Now see, I got a little bit too far down here. Just wipe that away. No big deal. And this idea that I'm doing this idea that I'm doing, you can apply this to any palette you have. You know, put a color that's close to your skin as a transition. Put the darker color in your crease and on, this is what they call the outer V here, because you're creating a V shape. And then we're going to put a shimmer on the actual lid. You can apply that to any palette you have. So if you have an eyeshadow palette that you like, you don't have to run out and grab this one. Okay. Now, I'm going to use my good old pinky finger for this. I'm going to go into this shimmer right here. The reason for that is shimmers sometimes are hard to stick when they're dry. You can go in with a wet brush to do it, but your own fingers produce, like the rest of your skin, produce some oil. And that usually is enough to help it stick beautifully. Now, I go in a little probably heavier handed than most beginners would. One thing is, the shimmer will fade a little bit, but also just because I like a little more shimmer. If it's too much shimmer for you, you can just use a brush. It will be less shimmery that way. But I did also want to show you that it is possible to just do this with your finger. Okay, so we've got that on. And then what do we keep talking about in the eyes? Well, in everything, but we want to blend, 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 blend. So I'm just going to take my brush and I'm just going to boop it in there. You don't need much. Just enough that I'm going to go right over where they come together, and we don't want a harsh line. So I'm just going to go over that just a little bit, so that it's kind of hard to tell exactly where that line is. But they just kind of gradually fade in together. Okay, 3 colors, just a few minutes, and it makes a dramatic difference in the eyes. Okay, eyeliner. I've had a lot of people ask about eyeliner. I don't think eyeliner is necessary. I wear it all the time. Doesn't mean it's necessary. So I'm not using it here. If you do want to use it, really, it's just all about practice. There aren't, there are a few tips here and there that you can use, but the biggest thing is just practice, practice, practice. What will make a bigger difference in your eyes than eyeliner, especially if you're just doing a basic look, is mascara. There are tons and tons and tons of good drugstore mascaras out there. The one I've chosen today is actually the Maybelline Snapscara. It's one of the few I have. I really like trying high-end mascaras. So I don't have a lot of drugstore ones. This one probably ranges $7 to $10 depending on where you get it. This is non-waterproof. They also have waterproof. If you are someone who maybe sweats a lot, tears up a lot, you're out in the elements a lot, you may want to go for a waterproof. Just be warned that it'll take a little longer to get off in the evening. This mascara, the wand is shaped a little different than most of the other ones I've ever seen. It kind of has a curl, and it is thinner on this side than it is here, so it kind of fits nicely in with the natural curl of the lashes. So I'm just going to wipe off any kind of clumps that I see on there. And then I'm going to place it at the base of my lashes, push in, and wiggle. Move it around, push in, wiggle up. push in, wiggle up. And I'm just going to keep moving it all over my lash base until I've got most of the lashes covered. And then I'm just going to use the tip here to get those little ones on the ends that are harder to get. You can go in and do your lower lashes. They are a little trickier to do because obviously they're smaller, sparser. It's easier to make a mess and smear them. Those are the ones that usually end up running throughout the day, so we're just not going to do that. You don't have to. I mean, if you want to, you can practice, but, you know, you don't have to. But I am going to go in with a second coat now. Same principle. Push in at the base, wiggle up. Push in, wiggle up. And I'm just going to keep doing that. When you start with this, going in with more coats, you're liable to see more clumping. So you want to be careful not to do too much. And then I'm going to use the tip here to just kind of brush out any clumps that I do see. Whether it be clumps of mascara or where I see lashes clumping together too much. Okay, then I'm going to move on to the other eye. And you can see just between this and that, it does make a large difference just having mascara. Now, I'm not talented enough to do this with the shape, so I have to kind of go backwards. But same thing. Push in, wiggle up. And most people, the lashes on both sides do not look the same. A lot of it has to do with what side you sleep on. And just, you know, your genetics in general. But like these will nicely fan out. This side is my troubled side. It just never looks quite as nice, no matter what I do. But that's okay. Again, I'm going in with a second coat. I apologize if you can hear my cat crying and trying to get into the room, but you know, I'm trying to keep sounds out from the rest of the house, so the door has to be shut. You can also curl your lashes beforehand. I always forget to curl my lashes. So it's not something that's necessary to do. But if you have an eyelash curler and you want to use it, go for it. Okay, mascara is done. So finally, to bring this all together, we're going to our lips. There are basically 3 different types of products you can use on your lips. You can use a bullet lipstick, which is the traditional, what you kind of grew up on. You turn the tube and it comes up, and it's a stick. There's the liquid, where it's in a tube, you pull it out, there's a doe foot, and you apply it that way. Or there's a gloss, which is very shiny, sometimes has pigment to it, sometimes does not, but it can be very sticky and thick as well. It's really up to you, whatever kind of look you're going for. I chose for today another Wet n Wild product. Like I said, Wet n Wild, great bang for your buck. These, most of their products are $5 or under, and you can get them in a multitude of places. One of my favorite lines is their liquid catsuit line and their lipsticks. You can get these in shiny, in matte, lots of different varieties. This one, it says it dries down to a matte. This is called Give Me Mocha. Again, just wanted something kind of neutral. But you can get, it goes from, the lightest pink up to black in this line. So you can get whatever you want. And they're about $4. We have a little doe foot here. It has a little divot here where, you put, it actually curves to your lip. The way I apply it is I take the tip and I'm just going to kind of use it as a lip liner. So I'm just going to follow the actual line of my lips. You can overline them a little bit if you want your lips to look a little fuller, but just for basics, I would start just following your lip line. Okay, and now just like coloring, I'm going to flip it over to the regular side. I'm going to color it in. And this will dry down in a little bit. So, okay, let's fix the hair. So we have a pretty much full face of basic makeup. It shouldn't, this whole video, yes, it's a little long, but like I said, it'll take you much less time to do it. We use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 products. And I believe, if I don't drop everything, 5, 9, 6 is 15. Yeah, this is less than $30 right here. And we used 2 brushes and 1 sponge that you can get this less than $10. You can pick from what you already have, but I'm just saying if you wanted to go out and buy all brand new stuff, you can do this fairly cheaply. And this stuff would last you at least a year. Mascara, you're supposed to get rid of every couple of months. I'm not saying that I keep mascara for a lot longer, but I'm saying that, sanitation-wise, you're supposed to get rid of them every 3 to 6 months. But here we go. Let me know what you think. If you try this, let me know. Send me a picture if you have Instagram. Go ahead and send me a picture on Instagram. I'm at steak_and_brush. I would love to see your, you trying it out for your first time. If there are any other techniques that I didn't mention that you want more, in depth as a first time or beginning makeup user, let me know. If you want the tutorial on eyeliner, I'll do that. If you want, like bronzer and contour and those kinds of things that I normally do, but didn't on the basics, let me know. I will do tutorials on those. But I just wanted to get this basic face out and show you how it's done. So thank you for sticking around with me. I really appreciate you being here. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you have not already subscribed to my channel, and share this with your friends. It's greatly appreciated. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.